Incredible day, family. Welcome to the Your Perspective Matters podcast. I am your host, Ronald,
And I'm your co-host, Jasmine.
and we are back at it with another episode on not even making, just being uncomfortable in general. And it's been a long week. Let me tell you, it's been a long freaking week. How are you? How are you mentally and emotionally?
I'm doing better today, mentally and emotionally. How are you?
Okay, I'm doing better. For sure, mentally, especially after our talk that we had the other day, after our what was the mental health day? That was well needed,
Mm.
well needed, and I believe that, and I love this with the podcast. Like everybody has their own little thing of what they do in their podcast or whatnot. And I love that we have a day catered to making sure that all of us are right mentally. You know, because that pours out into everything that we do. So within this week, I want to challenge you. You know, as always, um, what is something that you failed at this week?
Um, that's a great question.
Out
What
here
did
conquering and all that.
I would say that I failed at um letting someone else's problems affect me more than they should have this week.
Mm,
My mental just wasn't that strong this week. So,
mm,
the energy transfer was kind of, the percentage was a little too high for me.
mm. I
Yeah.
feel that. I feel like that's something that I am very intentional with because I pour out into a lot of people, and the type of person that I am, people want to oftentimes tell me their problems and everything. So I have to be careful with, or I have to be more intentional with making sure that who I'm getting whatever from in terms of their energy and their stories and all of that. I have to dissect how much I'm going to basically be able to intake because
Right.
even as great of a person as I am, I don't have enough capacity to take on all of that.
None of us do.
It is not at all. What did you conquer in this week then?
um, I conquered being choosing positivity over my negative thoughts. It was a lot that happened this week, but I really didn't let it get to me because things have just been happening left and right. And I've been practicing just choosing the more positive side than choosing to pay more attention to what's not going right. And that's been really good for me for the past few months, actually. But I'm just proud of myself for, remaining strong within that situation alone.
That's deep. That's deep. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Virtual clap. That's dope. For myself, I really can't think of. Well, I think one of the things that I failed at this week is actually in one of our meetings recently. Is not realizing or taking ownership um, of my response, rather, my actions. And even though I pride myself in making sure I do so, um, because your perspective matters, many times it comes off. Many times my perspective is I'm taking ownership, but to
Mhm.
the other person, it's like, no, you're not. So you got to be more sensitive to, hey, just because your perspective matters doesn't make it that your perspective is right. You know.
Yeah.
So I had to that was a challenge, and I appreciate my all of you guys, right? The whole YPM team for sure. That was definitely dope. Um, what did I conquer in this week, man? I think I conquered a week of not having much sleep and still producing. I think that's the major thing because on last week, um, going into the weekend, I did like two doubles.
Mhm.
Um, and what is it? I did two doubles, and then from the doubles, I went into this work trip, which was a beautiful experience. But it was a lot of driving, and then it was a day where we started working technically from like 3 a.m. Well, we drove from 3 a.m. to about 6:30 that same morning, and then we had to go directly into work from 7:30 to like 7:30 a.m. to like I think it was like 6 p.m.
Mm.
So without the driving, it was almost a 12-hour shift. With the driving, it was like 14, 15 hours. So yeah, it's
That's
crazy. I know.
Man, you're the strongest one in the bunch when it comes to that, because there is no way I would have made it.
Right. It's it's a challenge, but I understand the purpose and the focus. And no effort is going to be wasted for sure.
Mhm.
Um, but speaking of the trip, as I was in the trip, this episode I wanted to speak about. It came up during the trip, and I had a conversation with Mariah and TP prior that we were driving and I was listening to a sermon. And as I was listening to the sermon, oftentimes God basically talks to me separately from what I'm hearing from the sermon. But
Mhm.
if I disconnect from the sermon, it's almost like I disconnect from what he's telling me. So he immediately was getting me to to understand the greatest lessons in my life. What are those specific lessons? So and we've come up with a few, which is amazing. Um, but mine's is very, I think mine's is very interesting, specifically to myself because it like I see it every day, right? And the first lesson that I want to mention, that was one of the greatest lessons for myself, is you always matter. That's what I had to. Oh man, like we could do 8 hours just on that, but just understanding like you and I think for me it started off when I was younger,
Mhm.
not being seen, not having the value like everyone else, not understanding my potential. It allowed me to feel like I'm just inadequate or I'm irrelevant. When in actuality, me growing up, I'm realizing that I matter. Like how do you feel about that? Like, have you always felt like you mattered?
Absolutely not. Literally, what you just said is how I felt growing up. When you have old school parents, they have a certain type of parenting that they get from their parents, that their parents got from theirs.
Yeah,
Um, so it was like speaking your mind was disrespectful in my household. Saying
yeah,
how you felt, it's like I couldn't be depressed. I was too young to be depressed or too young to be stressed out or whatever that was. And it was to a point where I stopped speaking and I would write. I would just either journal for myself or I would write letters specifically to my father, but I would write letters or journal, and I would also make songs. I would like write songs out. I used to want to be an artist. I don't know if I ever told y'all that, but I used to want to be a professional singer until I realized what the industry was like. So I was like,
okay.
I want to be a part of that. So I changed that very fast. But yeah, that's what I used to do. I definitely felt like I didn't matter at all. Um, and I was one of those children where I was like the perfect child on the outside.
Mm,
So like I made the best grades out of me and my brother. I was very smart. I read a lot of books. Like I was just that child that didn't act up in school and stuff like that. So because
mm,
of my brother got more attention than I did, I felt like, because it was almost like my parents looked at it like, well, she has it all together. So,
mm,
and it was like, I'm over here, like,
yeah.
but so yeah, that definitely made me feel like I didn't really matter that much. So once I started having like mental health issues and stuff like that, um, my parents didn't know how to help me
Mm,
or navigate through that as a parent. So it was hard. Honestly, didn't feel like I mattered until I don't know, like a few years ago, which is not good, but better late than never.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's deep. I was gonna actually ask you a question on that because, like, I think me too. To be honest, I think I started realizing my value early on, but I didn't really start to understand um I really mattered until I got old, like in my 20s. You know,
Right.
like and and it was mid 20s. It's not even was like no early. It was mid 20s. So how was your? Because I know for me, I was silent a lot, and I used to try to speak up to people and express to them. Excuse me. I used to try to express to them like how I felt, and just my perspective in general, which is another reason why the Your Perspective Matters podcast came about. Was to be heard, and I wasn't heard most times until really until I got into entrepreneurship. Well, not even after that. What year was this? This was more so like when I started the trading company, which was like 2019.
Mhm.
So during that time was when like I felt like my voice started to be heard because I understood how to use my voice in a better sense, right? So
Mhm.
at what point, for you specifically, were you able to speak up on just yourself in terms of understanding that you matter?
In terms of understanding that I matter, speaking up towards that, hmm, like my junior going into senior year of high school is when I started like, speaking out, but it was more so outbursts, like
Mm,
unfortunately. But there's a process with going
yeah.
from speaking to not speaking to trying to channel all of that anger that's now built up. So I started having outbursts because I was tired of bottling my feelings up. I was tired of not being heard, not being listened to, but I didn't know how to communicate that anymore because I guess my own mind conditioned me to think I couldn't just say, I'm not okay.
Mm,
So if I was ever triggered around that time, I'm going off. Completely to be transparent, I literally couldn't wait until I turned 18 because I knew as soon as I got triggered again, I would move out my house, my parents' house, and that's exactly what I did.
mm,
Um, I literally like went off on my dad and I put all of my clothes like in a trash bag. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's still a tough topic. Yeah. But I would have outbursts because I was tired of no one taking up for the things that I was going through. And I didn't know how to channel that anymore. I didn't know anything about therapy. All I knew was I needed help and no one was helping. Um, so I would say that's when I started to realize like what I'm going through does matter and I matter as a person. Um, but I still couldn't really get any help because of how things were going. So
Mm,
that's when it started as far as me feeling like I mattered and then it went away.
mm.
Me not feeling like I mattered at all like anymore for years. So sorry.
No, you're good. This is what we're here for.
um yeah.
No, that's I feel it. I felt that because that was definitely me for sure. And sometimes, if I can be honest, sometimes I feel that little kid again. You know, I feel that kid in terms of, do I really matter in this situation? Um, Even with the many of the situations that I've faced recently, I think from my perspective, I believe that in a form of it, showing someone that they matter is being considerate. So I think that's why I react heavier, or it hits me harder when someone does not consider me in a situation. Right?
Mm,
Like, it don't even matter. We could be dating or whatever, cool. But if you don't consider my feelings in the situation, it's not even about what you did. It's about your thought process of, wow, you just really didn't consider it, which makes me feel like I just didn't matter to you,
mhm.
you know? So I felt that 100% because that'd be me, like, off and on, even now, you know?
It's definitely the principle for sure.
Yeah.
Like, are you
Yeah.
human at all or a robot?
And it's funny because we all want to be considered. But
Mhm,
it's many times the people that want to be considered the most that don't consider people at all.
mhm.
I'm just like, wow, like you really didn't. Like, do you realize how much growth, or not even growth, but how long we've been at this and you didn't even consider my feelings or anything? You didn't even ask me how I was doing, if I wanted something to eat, nothing. Like, it that just baffles me many times, you know?
Yeah. I did realize that a lot of people are just so stuck in their own mind. And there's a lot of
Mm,
people that can't help but to just think about themselves.
true.
With any situation they're in, any decision they make, they don't think about how it can affect anybody. And every decision you make in your own life affects someone around you in some type of way, whether it's good or bad. And a lot of people just they either don't have that cognitive capacity or they just don't care. It's one or the
Right.
other. So there's that side too. Um, but yeah, a lot of people are selfish and a lot of people are selfless. So it's like you're either this or that.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like 100%. What is one of the greatest lessons that you encountered in your life?
Um, it's not always someone else's fault. I had to
Okay.
kind of learn that over and over and over and over. And this actually goes back into the first lesson that we just talked about, with mattering, just realizing that you matter. Um, I guess, not I guess, when I was going through everything I was going through, um, from like age 10 all the way to age 22 or 23, everything was everybody else's fault. Everything was everyone else's fault. And it was because I had the outlook that everything that was happening to me and not for me. So I had a victim mentality on everything because I was a victim before, but I'm not anymore. But I was in that mentality for so long, I didn't know how to get out of that. So anything I went through, I found a way to blame it on something else or someone else and not looking at my actions in between all of that. That could have made it worse or better or whatever it is. But around that time, my actions were making my situation worse. And I wasn't paying attention to what I did or whatever decision I made or whatever it was. I was only paying attention to what either happened before that, what happened in between that, or what happened after that. And I remember my mom telling me, actually, I got this from her. I remember her telling me, everything is everyone else's fault, Jasmine. She was like, it's never your fault. It's everyone else's fault. It's never your fault. And it made me so mad. But she was so right. But it made me so upset. But she was right. And it was during a time where I was making like the worst decisions ever. And then I would
Wow.
turn and get frustrated at the outcome of things. Um, and I'm not taking into account what I had to do with any of the situations.
That part.
So that was a tough pill to swallow. But I take that with me every day now. And I have more conviction now with my actions because I know if I make certain decisions in my life that it's it's like what decisions you make will give you a better outcome or not. It's like you feel it before you do it, that discernment. So
Right.
it's like if I make a decision that I know might not be the best, I'm like completely convicted about it, or I'm so convicted to the point where I won't make a decision that I feel like will put me in a worse situation. So I'm glad that she did tell me that because it'll sound off in my mind anytime I'm about to do something that may not be the best for me.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that phrase alone helped me a lot, especially in my older days. So I'm grateful for her telling me that.
Grateful for mama favors. Thank you. That is interesting, right? Because when you realize you matter, um, I think it's like not a phase, but it's that transition of understanding once you matter, you start to realize that for myself, right, I immediately had to know that my responsibility, because I know that I matter, I have to take other things into my responsibility and not others, right? Because of the fact, like what you were just saying in terms of everything is everybody's fault. If everything is everybody else's fault, that means that they have control over it, which also means that you don't really understand your value or the fact that you matter. You do matter, right? Your decision making matter, even if it was a bad decision or a good decision. It doesn't matter. Your decision, period, mattered. So I had to realize to take accountability and be like, hey, I can't allow it for it to be on someone else's hands, right?
Yeah.
That's why immediately I forgive immediately, right? I'm a person. If you were to, you know, beat me up or take my lunch money, you are forgiven in that literally in that time frame or literally in that moment because I don't want to give you the power of it being that you're in control of that. I want to reclaim what they say, reclaim my time. I want to
Mhm.
reclaim my time, reclaim my power. And it is heavy to know that you're gonna have that responsibility, but it's worth it because we grown out here. Like we ain't no little kid, you know? So
Exactly.
you gotta do what you gotta do, you know?
I agree.
Um so I wanted to ask you a question on that. How is it now? Like I know that it was the transition from when you were younger to now. But how do you feel now in terms of like after mom expressed that and obviously it's changed your life? Like is there times where you revert back to those old way of thinking, or do you feel like because of that moment, I'm set in stone where I'm always gonna put it on myself?
I definitely will revert back to that mindset sometimes, but I'm also very quick to look at what I did or didn't do.
Okay.
So, for example, I'm gonna throw my business in there. I'll literally say, "Well, I haven't gotten that many sales this month or this week," and I'll feel some type of way about it, and then I'll think about what I did and didn't do to either not get a sale or get one. And it's
Right.
like, so I say the first half will be looking at what's happening or what has happened, and then I'll look at why that happened. So then it goes back to me
Okay.
anyway. So I wouldn't say that I will stick to like what's happening to me. I know that everything happens for me, but a lot of things happen based off of what we decide at this point. You know that saying where it's like the older you get, the decisions that you make matter more, like the older you get. I know I'm saying,
Ah,
but it's
yeah, I'm
like
not sure about that.
it's something like the decisions you make will affect you more as an adult than the decisions you made as a child. Like for example, if like the people that take money from banks, they're not going to have access to a bank account,
Right.
like stuff like that. I know I'm saying it wrong, but
No, you
uh,
good.
I can't think about the actual phrase. But yeah, so I'll have those moments where I'm like, dang, like this isn't working out. But immediately I'll think about what my action was in that. And then it's just a big punch in the face. So it's like I can't be mad at nobody.
Right.
So
Uh, that's deep. I like that. It's how you got to do it, to be honest. And it's okay to like. I hear which I love your vulnerability is that you're admitting that there is. It's not that you revert back to it, but you just have those momentary things where it just happens that way. It's really like a thought process. You know,
exactly.
that's why I'm encouraging everybody, right, when it comes to this podcast, to subscribe and listen because what you listen to matters, and then that's going to dictate whether or not though when you get those thoughts, whether it be big thoughts or less or smaller, right? Whether it's a huge impact on you, meaning that you completely revert back, or it's something that you can just fight off because of what you've already consumed in yourself mentally and through your ears, right? as you consume that, now you start to replay all these positive things. But even you, though you might have moments where you just think about it, you don't necessarily revert back to it. You
Yeah.
know, so that's critical. Um, I want to mention another lesson, right? And I think this will probably be one of my last lessons. I got a lot I learned. God's been beating me up. He's been going in, but we're not gonna go through it all for the sake of time. But um, one of my second lessons, or one of another lessons that was one of the greatest things or been the greatest impact of my life is understanding that it's not as bad as it seems. Oh my God! Like just saying that it was a weight lifted off. Like it's not as bad as it seems,
Hmm.
and we allow fear to drive almost everything.
Yeah.
But then what's that saying? On the other side of fear is everything that you want and desire. So
Hmm.
why don't we not necessarily chase after fear, but just go directly through it, right? Like face it. Well, what's the acronym? Face everything and you can, yeah, face everything and rise. You can
Hmm.
fear, what is it? Fear everything and, well, it's two versions, but I know face everything and rise is something that like I'm focusing on. I don't want to just be stuck in it or have the what if syndrome. Like, man, what if I actually started a business?
Hmm.
What if I actually asked her out? What if I actually listened to my mom? Like, what if? Like, I don't want the what if. I want to, you know, be vibing in. You know,
Hmm.
how has that played a role in your life as far as like fear wise?
I used to be pretty fearful, honestly, and I think that just ties into like everything that I was experiencing. Um, and daring to be different was scary back then.
Hmm.
Um, but the older I got, the more I was able to just put forth effort towards my dreams and my goals and things like that. I've always been a very determined person. So, like, if someone told me that this wouldn't work, I would probably still try it. And then if it don't, then it don't. Um, and I've always been I've just always been a leader. Like, it's almost like anything I was a part of, I was a leader in it in some type of way.
Hmm.
So I might have had fear, but it probably didn't show that much. And I think that helped me along the way. Um, but I still deal with fear, even with a lot of things, like with my relationship, business wise, and everything. And it's I try to not pay attention to it, but it's kind of hard sometimes. Like, and the type of fear that I'm having right now is a little annoying for me because it's like I'm not fearing about anything going wrong. I'm just fearing about how good it could be.
Yeah,
That's scary.
I
And
felt that.
I feel like it's so scary because I'm so used to everything just going left.
Yeah,
And when things started going right for me, it got real scary.
yeah.
It got really scary. Like when I had my first event for my business in 2023, that was my first time ever doing anything like that. And so many people showed up to that event. Like I was too stunned to speak, like the whole entire time. So many people came and I didn't even expect that many people to show up. Like it was people that I haven't seen since middle school that popped up. And
Hmm.
I'm like, where have you been?
Yeah.
But that was just scary because I was like, oh my God. I'm way more powerful than I think I am. And the type of business that I made can really help people. And I started to get scared of my success. Like becoming a millionaire or having a $1 billion business, those things scare me a little bit. And I guess I get scared because I want to be able to handle it, like
Yeah,
handle the pressure that comes with that. And I'll say that I need to work more on being able to handle what I've prayed for and asked for and the type of industry that I'm in. You have to have a very strong suit. So I'm working on not being so fearful about my success because that could stunt my growth and that could stop me from reaching my full potential. And I don't want to do that
that part.
at all. I did want to ask you though,
Okay.
when did you transition into being less fearful than you were before?
Dang, that's a good question. Man, I so I'm gonna say it like this. I I don't think I'm less fearful. I think I just know how to handle it better. That's
Mm-hmm.
what it's become. Like it's almost like when you are a motivational speaker or when you're like a public speaker or even a singer, and somebody asks you like, when do you stop being nervous and is able to perform well? It's not that I'm not nervous. I'm
Right.
probably even more nervous. But you got to get into a zone and a mode where you just zone out. You're just like, yo, I'm just, you know, you just zone out and do what you do. And that's me. Like I I've tapped in deeper with my faith and my relationship with God, which allow me to not. And it's not that I do fear less, but I want to say this. I do fear less, right? But it's not mainly that it's even though I fear less, the times that I do have fear is heavy, right? It's a time where or times where it's like, yo, just because it's not as much as before, it's just heavier than before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I've developed and I've grown, and then there's so many other promises that God has for me that the fear of success or the fear of having it is probably deeper or stronger than the fear of losing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's just like, yo, what if I actually be success? That what if again? What if I actually be successful? Like, what if it actually works? You
Exactly.
know, like it's just like, hold on, what do I do? You know, and I'm so grateful that God didn't allow me to be a millionaire yet because um, He knew that if I was a millionaire, there are certain people that I would not have developed a relationship with,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I've realized even in fear that it helps you reveal your purpose. And had I been completely successful, or had I been the millionaire or super, you know, and my name and lights and all of this, had this happened early on, I wouldn't have met you guys. Like I wouldn't have started the podcast. I wouldn't. It's some things that I would not have done, but specifically relationship wise, God said I want to keep you on a specific level because I need you to impact specific people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as you develop, as you grow, there are certain people that's going to be knocked off. There's certain people that you want to bring up with you, but you just can't. It's just like, Mom, I love you, but you're not going where I'm going. Bro, I love you, but you don't get it. And you don't want to get it, you know? And that's the worst part. It's like, bro. I get if you wanted to get it and it's just challenging, but many times people don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've grown to learn how to handle fear a lot better than just it being like, oh, I'm not fearful at all. Because there are times where I'm here. There are times um where I'm talking to you guys, or even on a podcast. There are times where I'm just like, man, like, what if this actually blows up? Or what if nobody ever decides to listen to my perspective?
Mm-hmm.
What if I don't ever get a subscriber anymore? But I've realized it's purpose. As long as you get one, it's all that matters.
That
So
is true.
that's my answer to that. Like I just handle it better. That's really it.
That's a great answer because you do. That's why I asked you that because I'm like, that's good though.
Yeah.
Um,
It ain't easy.
it's definitely not easy at all,
Yeah.
but
It's not
we're making it though. Shoot, because
that part.
it's definitely not for the weak. I will say that. I do
Not at
feel like
all.
that ties into my next lesson. No one
Mhm.
can have faith for you. I really love that one.
Ooh,
Um,
it's a good one.
simply because there was a time where I had none. Like I
Yeah.
lost it. I was just like, nothing's working.
Right.
I'm not happy. I'm depressed. I don't want to be here. I'm over it. I'm tired of trying. God's not listening to me. He's not answering none of my prayers. He probably doesn't even love me anymore. Like I literally thought all of that stuff. Because everything was going wrong. But I could say that, but when you realize everything happens for you and not to you, it's probably not going wrong.
Yeah.
It's mostly going the right way. It's just not how you want it to go.
Yeah.
And um, I feel like this lesson is super powerful because no one can have faith for you. People can have faith with you, but they can't have all the faith for you.
Right.
Destiny is your destiny, their destiny is theirs. And if you have no faith in your own life, where are you going to go?
True.
And if you're not working on that faith, if you're not putting in the work, you're just stagnant.
Yeah.
You're not working towards anything but the worst part of you, which is only going to just turn completely bad.
Mm.
And I've been there before, and it was just a huge eye opener for me. Like a lot of things that, and it most likely comes from my mother, but a lot of
Mm.
things that my mom has said will literally change my mindset that fast.
Mm.
And I don't know if it's like a spirit snatcher or something that just snatches me all together or something, but it like it's like an eye opener. You ever have that feeling where someone says something to you and it's like you just blink and it's almost like a feeling that you have in your eyes, like it's like you see through the veil now.
Yeah.
That feeling a lot when my mom says certain things.
Mm.
And we're a lot more aligned now with things like that. So our conversations are a lot more powerful and uplifting, and it's not just her uplifting me anymore, but I'll do the same for her, and we'll do it for each
Right.
other. I love that. Um, and I can say my faith is way stronger than
Mm.
ever. Um,
Beautiful.
and I don't need anyone to have faith for me. I thank
Right.
you, but thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. However, my faith for myself is way stronger than anyone else's faith for me. And that's because I know exactly what I want for my life. I know what God wants for me as far as what I do know that He wants, because we don't know everything.
Mm.
But um yeah, once I started to just grow more faith and do the work, I just started seeing the fruits of my labor
Mm,
and the fruits of God's labor too. I don't want to give myself all the credit because
yeah.
he's bigger than we are, and we wouldn't even be able to do the things we can do without him. So I don't want him to be forgotten within that.
Mm.
But yeah, so
Wow.
love that quote. How does that make you feel? How do you feel about that?
It's a lot. Oh my God. It is a lot I want to say, but for the sake of time, I want to ask you, do I have your permission to make you uncomfortable?
Oh Lord, of course.
So you said something interesting, and you said that your basically there was a transition with your faith in terms of is increased, and you guys now have a better relationship in terms of being able to pour into each other. Has it ever been a time where it wasn't? Where like how was that beginning process was in terms of was she was it challenging for you to even listen to the things that she was giving you on a faith wise? Or was it that she wasn't giving it to you properly that made it a tough transition in the beginning? How was that process?
Um, it was hard for me to listen.
Okay.
Well, I want to say it was hard for me to listen. It was hard for me to accept it
Okay.
and like really take it in and use what she was saying.
Right.
Um, and it just keeps going back to everything that I was going through, my mindset, the victim mindset, the nothing's working out, I don't care. Like I'm angry.
Yeah.
I'm mad at you, actually. I'm mad at my dad. I'm mad at everybody else. Like all y'all to get nerves. All
Yeah.
y'all
Yeah.
to make it. First of all, y'all never fix this. Y'all never fix this. I don't care. Nothing's
Yeah.
working. And it got to a point where she was like tired of trying to help, and she couldn't help me anymore. I'm
Mm.
so emotional today.
Mm.
But she could not help me anymore. And that helped me though. It helped me become stronger, and it helped me realize that no one can help you fully get there. You have to want it like for yourself. You have to truly want that for yourself. The same thing you were saying earlier. Some people don't want to grow. And that's so true. And there was a point in my life where I like gave up on doing that. I was over it.
Mm.
And I had to grow up. I had to
Yeah.
literally, it was almost like I chose to be on my knees for the longest, just sinking into this sand and this mud. And I could have literally just stood up and stumbled through it to
Yeah.
get to the grounds. But once I did, it was hard, but I got through it and it worked. And I could never go back. I would feel
Hey.
if I did. I would feel so crazy if I did. Like I live a completely different life. Like I'm a completely different Jasmine. Completely different. Completely different. Like,
Yeah, even when I met you, like when our first conversation, you were basically trying like I think that was like your the ending phase, I guess, to the old Jasmine for sure. You were still there mentally, but you were transitioning into just wanting something better, and you didn't want to feel the way you were feeling. So I mean, I haven't fully experienced the old Jasmine, but I'm grateful for who you have become for sure.
you would have been like, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. I don't know what to do with you.
Yeah,
So,
that's funny.
but It was a process though. It was a hard process.
Yeah,
I had to be stripped like completely,
yeah,
and that hurts. That hurts so bad. It hurts so bad, but it feels good to not be in that place anymore because it hurt worse to stay there.
mm, dang. Oh, I felt that.
I was telling my mom yesterday, um, it's much easier for me to give energy to the positive parts of my life than it is to give energy to the negative parts. And I know a lot of people say the opposite, but for the point in life that I'm at, it's so much easier to give the energy to what's going right or like my blessings simply because I feel so good about it.
Mm,
And it's harder for me to pay more attention to the negative because I feel horrible when I do.
yeah,
And a lot of people don't look at it that way. A lot of people be like, it's easy to be negative. Not for me. I hate it. I despise being negative because it doesn't make me feel good. I get sad, I get angry and frustrated. My head's hurting every day. I don't like that. But waking up and choosing to pay attention to me having a house over my head, me having clothes, me being able to cook myself food and my brother food, me being able to take care of my dog still. I still have a car. Somehow, some way, I'm able to take care of everything because of God, of course. But still,
mm,
it's so much better for me to pay attention to those things because I feel so much better, so much lighter every day. Even, I'm still human. I get frustrated and sad and eerie sometimes, but it's nowhere near as heavy or at a high percentage than it used to be.
right. I feel that.
I appreciate that change.
Mm, I love it. And let me tell you, um, say the lesson again because I wanna say it word for word. Say that lesson
Um,
again.
no one can have faith for you.
Boom. So no one can have faith for you, right? And we're gonna close out, but no one can have faith for you. But if you are someone that does not have faith, it is highly advisable that you do attach yourself to people that do have faith because they can't have faith for you, but you can borrow some of the faith and energy from others, right? And even with our last conversations with the group, within the last month, within the last 30 days, it has been, which is so beautiful. All of it is faith based,
Mhm.
right? So it's not like we are just trying to give you a quote out of nowhere, but it means something to us, right? And I had to, in moments, borrow faith from you guys. I had to borrow faith because there were some things that I wasn't seeing within myself that I had to realize, oh, you him, right? You are him. You're that guy. And to hear the positive things that you guys always say about me, like sometimes it's hard. I'm gonna be honest, right? If I can be transparent, sometimes it's still hard to fully accept the good compliments. Like, and I don't want it to be where I'm ungrateful. I'm just even many times not even focused on the compliment. I'm just focused on doing the work, right? I'm focused on, as somebody would say, hey, well, I thank you for being patient. You're welcome, but I'm that's just me. I'm just gonna give it. So it's nothing for me to do certain things because it's become habitual, or it's become like a standard of mine to do things in excellency and to do things out of care. So it's like when people compliment me on certain things, it's hard for me to even receive it sometimes. But I encourage you guys to, man, because I've been there. I'm pretty sure Jazz has been there. I'm pretty sure many people have been there. Make sure that if you are not If your faith is not the best, right, you have to be intentional with getting in the room, getting in the environment where people's faith is where you want to get at. So critical.
Mm-hmm.
And just a closing remark, Jazz. You could close us out. There is a woman out there that is an entrepreneur like yourself, um, and has a similar past in terms of not being seen before, um, and but she's having struggles with her faith right now. She's having struggles with how to continuously be productive in this season, right? What would be some words of encouragement or some advice or perspective that you can give to her? Uh-oh, we're about to go on the whole lesson. Look at her.
It's got to be a whole nother hour.
That is funny.
I'm glad you asked me that.
Yeah.
Simply put, Psalms 46:5, God is within her, she will not fail. Take that
Mm,
with you today, because that's been my favorite verse for years. When I say years,
mm,
I mean years. And honestly, I remember when I first seen that verse, and it stuck with me so hard to the point it's in my bio on Instagram. I wrote it so many times on different things, and it's really worked, you know. And when you truly believe that, when you truly believe that God is there with you, you can do
mm.
all things through Christ. And that's another verse too. You can
Hello.
do things, okay? Yes, it gets hard, but God wouldn't give you anything that you cannot bear. He wouldn't give you any challenge that you cannot conquer. You'll be able to do anything you put your mind to, but you have to work for it and you have to have that faith that you can do that. And it's easier to have faith when you put in the work and you see
Mm,
the fruits of your labor. It all goes hand in hand. You have to do it, and you have to truly believe in yourself. And that fear that you get, turn that fear into action and production.
mm.
And that's all I have for you, beautiful ladies.
Well, there you have it. Once
Thanks for
again, another amazing episode on the Your Perspective Matters podcast, personal growth, where we focus on intentionally uncomfortable conversations, which leads to growth. So we appreciate you guys for coming on to today's episode. I advise and encourage you guys to click the link below, click the subscription, and subscribe to us. Right? We don't want to be a one night stand. We want to be married. So we already saying I do. We just waiting for you to bring the ring, baby. Bring the ring. But until next time, we'll see you on the next episode because your perspective matters.